We just need to reintroduce the boys to rugby again after a couple of weeks off, so it's just getting reacquainted, and then we'll certainly give it a good nudge week 2 and week 3 and take them to places they haven't been before in terms of physical capacity. I think they reacted really well in Block 1, worked really hard, and they're a really honest bunch, so very happy with how they're progressing, yeah.
A few under-20s players have come back in. Have they been shocked by how fit the guys who have been here for the entire pre-season have been?
Yeah, I think it's the remainder of the group really benefited from how hard we pushed them in the first session, the first 3 weeks, so they're at a fantastic level. I think there's a lot of personal bests in the Mo Farah test this afternoon, fitness-wise, so there's a lot of hands up when it was asked who had a PB today, so certainly it'll be a bit of a shock for the 20s. Obviously been playing a bit of rugby at the World Cup and did fantastically well, but I think the aerobic capacity of those players is probably a little bit down on the remainder of the group, but we certainly believe they'll be up to standard come the next 2 to 3 weeks.
What has the general focus been this pre-season? From what I've seen, it's been right back to basics.
Yeah, we've definitely had a real focus on executing our skills. We feel like the ambition that Glasgow plays with and always plays with is fantastic, but we need to marry that with a little bit more accuracy so that we're converting our chances in games, and so there's been a big focus on catch and pass, ball carrying and defence. We'll obviously ramp the physicality of those aspects up the second block, but we feel like we need to get back to basics to start with, and then the players, to their credit, have been really open to the new ideas, so it's been really productive to date.
Can Glasgow fans watch the Chiefs playing in Super Rugby and expect to see that brand of rugby at Scotstoun next season?
I think we'll certainly endeavour to play rugby, but we need to make sure the rugby suits our cattle. It's a completely different group with the Chiefs. Although we feel like we've got some really good athletes here, we just make sure we're playing to the strengths of this particular group of athletes. But we will endeavour to play rugby. I think Gregor created a fantastic atmosphere here, a really good culture of expressing yourselves and playing, so there won't be too much change in that regard. Like I say, we just want to be slightly more accurate than we have been in the last sort of season, or maybe season and a half perhaps.
With so many people away with the Lions and with Scotland, the squad's currently quite young. Has anyone really stood out for you? Have you been really impressed by anyone?
Look, I've been just really impressed with the overall attitude of the players. I think, again, that's a credit to Gregor and his staff, what they created here in terms of the culture of the group, and I think, you know, having Pat MacArthur, Chris Fasario, some of those senior players really driving that culture has been very productive, made it so much easier for us as new coaches. So I think that's the biggest thing I've taken out of it, is what a great culture there is that's existing here, and what pressure that puts on young guys to really step up and be accountable for their performance straight away. So that's made it a lot easier for me as a coach to come into this environment. So yeah, I couldn't single out any one person, just more a reflection of the culture all around. It's been great.
From a personal point of view, are you enjoying being in day in, day out now, rather than having a short period of time with the players?
Yeah, I am. I'm absolutely loving it. I think there's a lot of young guys that are really receptive to new ideas. Like I said, you can see the growth in them even in the 3 weeks we had prior to the break. So that's always really nice for a coach to see some guys getting better at skills that you think are going to help the team in the long run. So I always believe your tactical scope is really based around your skill set. So the more skills you have, the more tactics you can deploy. So that's why we're focusing on skills initially, so we can then have more tactics, and we can play a wide variety of games depending on conditions, opposition, and our own 15 that's going out there.
It was announced last week that your first game in charge will be against Northampton Saints, Dave's first game in charge. What threats do they have, and is that something you're excited for?
Look, Northampton traditionally have a very strong, very rugged forward pack, and I think they'll bring that physicality. Certainly they had a bit of a shake-up in their coaching staff in the early part of last season, and after I thought they started to try and play a little bit more rugby. So I think they'll bring a balanced game, but first and foremost will be a massive challenge up front for us. If we can get some parity then we can play some rugby. So yeah, definitely will be on the tight 5 to lay a foundation in that game for sure.
And we're taking it away from Scotstoun to Stirling County. Is that something you like, going back to a club and seeing the homegrown and the grassroots? Yeah,
I absolutely love it. I like taking it to the outer regions. I think some of the outer-lying regions, there's some real good talent there, and we don't often get an opportunity to go amongst those communities. So I think going to Stirling would be a great opportunity for us to engage with those people, perhaps see some young kids that are involved, do some clinics, etc., and spread the gospel. But if we can create a bigger following for Glasgow Warriors, all the better. So we're looking forward to going there and having a good game of footy.
And in another couple of weeks you'll have a full squad back. Are you looking forward to everyone being here and that final push towards the start of the season?
Yeah, we are. We really, I mean, one of the big reasons I came here was a great number of the Scottish team play for Glasgow, particularly in the back. So having Finn, Holgi, Alex Dunbar, those sorts of guys coming back Peter Horn, Henry Purgos are great leaders amongst this group. I think it's going to be really good, and it's going to be also really interesting to see how the guys that have been there in their absence, how they transfer the information that we've put into them around some of the new skills we try and develop. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pair coaching comes along, and that's a big driver of Dave and his environments is always using players to coach players at times. So I'll be really interested to see how that dynamic works when the Scottish internationals get back.
And as a new coach, that transition will be made easier by the fact that you've worked with those guys that you mentioned before.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, that's why I'm here. I enjoy Scotland. I enjoy the Scottish way of life. A few generations back, my family's actually from Cambuslang, so coming to Glasgow was always an ambition. So to be able to work with those guys, like I say, some of those names before, Hoggy, Finn, etc., was really huge enticement. But along with that, I get the opportunity to work with some really good young talent as well, who are very hungry to make their mark. So they understand that they need to make their mark in pre-season, because once the internationals get back, it's going to be really heated competition. So they're stepping forward at the moment and putting their hands up, which is great.